I want you to picture a student sitting in a class, a smart kid, has friends, knows what they believe about God, or at least they used to. But somewhere between grade school and now, something shifted. They go to church on Sunday, but Monday morning it's like a different person shows up. They laugh at the things they shouldn't laugh at. They go quiet when they should speak up. They're not sure exactly when it happened, but at some point they stopped being who they should be. Nobody drugged them there. There was no single moment, no catastrophic sin that changed their life. It was just 100 small incremental choices, each one feeling harmless, each one making the next decision a little bit easier. This is a scene written in the book that C.S. Lewis wrote called The Screwtape Letters. If you haven't read it, the premise alone should make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, because this book is written as a series of letters from a senior demon to a junior demon named Wormwood. So Screwtape, I don't know what the weird names are for, but Screwtape, the senior demon, is writing to this junior demon named Wormwood. And Wormwood has been assigned a human, and of course a demon. Their job is to keep that person away from God. And Screwtape is coaching him in this book on exactly how to keep that person away from God. And here's what he tells him. He doesn't say go after him with this catastrophic, dramatic sin. He says this in the book. Wormwood, the safest road to hell is the gradual one. The gentle slope, the soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts. And this student in the class that they're talking about, Wormwood didn't need to do anything spectacular. He just needed to keep making that slope comfortable for this student. So this morning I want to talk to our young people in the audience. What nobody told you before you grew up. Or perhaps what nobody told me before I grew up. And I want to say 3 things that might help you while you go through school. And though this lesson is catered to our young people in our audience, you might notice this lesson will have plenty of application for all ages as well. Young people, are you ready? Turn in your Bibles to Galatians, the first chapter, in verse 10. Galatians 1, in verse 10. Could you advance the slide to the first one? Galatians chapter 1 and verse 10. It says, "For do I now persuade men or God? Or do I seek to please men? For if I still pleased men, I would not be a bondservant of Christ." Before Paul wrote these words, he gave up everything for Christ. Think about the person who's writing this, what he gave up. He gave up his friendships. He gave up his reputation. He gave up his career. And ultimately, he ended up giving up his life. Young people, the first thing I want you to know is that you won't care about impressing people someday. The approval of people is the most expensive thing you will ever chase. And it pays nothing. You still have your Bibles open? Turn to Ecclesiastes, the 2nd chapter. There was a man who ran an experiment. Solomon wrote the book of Ecclesiastes, and at one time he was the most admired, the most talked about man in the ancient world. Forget class favorite, young people. He wasn't class favorite, he was world favorite. Kings and queens traveled from the ends of the earth just to see what he has built, just to hear what he had to say. He was the smartest kid in the class, the richest kid in school. He had more reputation, more fame, more respect than any person in history up to that point. And he decided to run an experiment. He set out to find whether all of these things, all of these accomplishments, the pleasure, the admiration that he had from others could actually satisfy him. So he went. He built projects. He planted vineyards. He surrounded himself with everything culture said would make him fulfilled. And he wrote down his findings for us. Isn't that interesting? Ecclesiastes chapter 2 and in verse 4. Here's Solomon talking. I made my works great. I built myself houses and planted myself vineyards. I made myself gardens or orchards, and I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove. I acquired male and female servants, and had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than all who were in Jerusalem before me. See how much he cared about the approval of others? I had more than everybody else around me, he said. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and special treasures of kings and of provinces. I acquired male and female singers and the delights of the sons of men and musical instruments of all kinds. So I became great and excelled more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. And my wisdom remained with me. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all of my labor, and this was my reward from all my labor. And then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and all the labor which I had toiled. You ready for his conclusion? And indeed all was vanity in grasping for the wind. There was no profit under the sun. What was his conclusion? After having more than any young person in here could ever dream of chasing. He opens the whole book with this same phrase, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Everything he'd spent his life trying to get. All the approval, think about all the people in your class thinking you are the best. He had it. The whole world thought he was the best, and he called it a vapor. Whew. Chasing after the wind. It's impossible to be satisfied, he said. The man with the most impressive resume in human history looked back on all the things he built his reputation on and said, none of it satisfied me. None of it lasted. None of it was worth what it cost me. So young people, if you're trying to be class favorite, if you're trying to impress the people around you right now, today, Solomon tried it. And he told you the results. The people you are trying to impress today, in 30 years, you will have forgotten most of their names. I want to tell you about a kid I went to school with. This guy was the life of every room he walked in. He was the funniest kid. You always wanted him in your class because he was the funniest kid. Teachers probably hated him, but he was the funniest kid in class. He was magnetic. He was the kind of person that everybody wanted to be around. But more than anything, he wanted to be wanted. He needed to be right in the middle of everything. He wanted to be with the right people, doing whatever it took to stay there. And the problem with that is that he had to keep doing more to impress people. And eventually that led to him doing drugs to impress people, to drink alcohol to impress people, to do whatever the crowd was doing around him to impress them, because the crowd's approval was worth more to him than anything else. And we weren't that close. I didn't talk to him for years. I hadn't even thought about him in years. And a few months ago, I was in downtown Oklahoma City, and I saw someone standing on the sidewalk outside of a building that I thought was him. It was. I almost didn't recognize him. He looked 30 years older than me. We were in the same grade. I walked up to him, and it's like he looked right through me when I talked to him. He couldn't even really hold a conversation. His mind was gone. And that's when I realized he was standing outside of a homeless shelter and was participating in a drug rehab program. Years of chasing a life, and it took everything from him. No job. He has no home now. No family left who wants anything to do with him. And those friends he worked so hard to impress in school, not one of them is there. That's what people-pleasing costs you when you follow it all the way to the end. It will take everything from you. And the people you gave up everything for, they won't be anywhere to be found. I hope you see that you won't care about impressing people someday. Here's what nobody tells you when you're young. The things that you're the most embarrassed about right now, your faith, your values, choosing not to do something, everything everybody else is doing, those are the things that you'll be most proud of in 10 years. And the things you compromise to be accepted, you're not even going to remember the names of the people you compromised them for. I hope you'll see that you won't care about impressing people someday. Other than that, I think this is dead, if you can go to point 2. Following God is not a compromise. It is a great life. I wish I knew that following God wasn't giving something up when I was growing up. Turn to the book of John in chapter 10. The book of John in chapter 10 and verse 10. It says, "The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy." This is Jesus talking. He says, "I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly." Here's a lie that runs underneath almost every reason a young person delays obeying God. Have you ever heard the ideology that I will be a Christian when I'm older? I want to live my life first. I remember thinking that when I was growing up, that I will be a Christian when I'm older, but I just want to live my life right now. I think a lot of young people think that. That sentence, that thinking, it almost sounds reasonable. It sounds even a little bit mature, if you will. It's like you're being honest where you are right now, that I'm going to straighten up when I'm later. It sounds like a good idea to a lot of young people. But there are 2 fatal problems with it, and I'd like to talk to you about that. The first is, who told you that you will live to be old? And the second, what exactly do you think you're missing? It reminds me of the story in Luke the 15th chapter. Turn over there with me. Luke the 15th chapter and verse 11. Luke 15 and verse 11. Where it says, "A certain man had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me.' So he divided them his livelihood. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living." So this young man looks at his father and basically says, "Hey, I want what you have, but I don't want you. Give me my inheritance." And so the father, brokenhearted, gives him all of his inheritance, and he goes to this faraway country, and he really lives. He parties. He finds new friends. Everything money can buy, he buys it. And this is the life, he thinks. Finally, got rid of dad. Finally, I can do what I want. This was worth leaving home. But the story goes on in verse 14. "When he had spent all, there arose a severe famine in that land, and he began to be in want. Then he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swine ate, and no one gave him anything." So the money runs out, his friends disappear, his family, this famine comes, and he finds himself feeding pigs and being jealous of the pigs. Can you imagine? Being jealous of a hog, the life he traded his father for, this life that looked like freedom, turned out to be exactly what Jesus said in John the 10th chapter that we just read. The thief that steals and kills and destroys. The story goes on, verses 17 through 24. We'll skip the reading. Where he comes to his senses, he heads home, rehearses this speech the whole way home of what he's going to say to his dad. "Hey, just make me a servant." But what happens? His father meets him, sees him from a distance, and runs. Not walks. Runs. Throws a party for him. That's what Jesus says the full life looks like. Not the far country, The Father's house. That's the full life. And the door is open now. Not later, not someday, now. Right now. Young people, Jesus didn't give you a checklist of things to do that are meant to make you miserable. He said in John 10 that we already read, I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. God's rules are laid out in the Bible and they are meant to protect us. They're meant to help us. And that doesn't always mean an easy life. It doesn't mean that you're going to have a cakewalk. Paul wrote a lot of the letters talking about how he had this life sitting in prison. Job had this same life, and said that he had it when he lost everything. What Jesus is promising here isn't a life without pain. He's promising a life of meaning, with purpose, with peace, despite your circumstances, and with something worth living for that nobody can take away from you. That's not the life that the world is trying to sell you. That's not the life that the devil is trying to sell you. The devil sells as living, this thing that you're supposed to delay God for, is what Jesus calls the thief's work, that steals and kills and destroys. It looks like freedom, but it's a trap. Do you remember those 2 reasons that we talked about that young people often delay Christianity for? Why that's so foolish? Do you remember the 2 reasons I said? Who told you you are going to live to be old? And the second, what exactly do you think you're missing out on? That makes me think of this girl that I knew. I want to tell you about her. She was a few years younger than me. She was full of life. She was the kind of person that you wanted to be around. She was a good friend of mine. And we made plans one week at school. We had off-campus lunch. I don't know if anybody else had that, but it was a big deal. You planned out I kept a calendar. You planned out your lunches. You never want to go to lunch alone, obviously. And so you kept a calendar. I'm going to lunch with this person this day, and if anybody ever ditched you, you mark them off from your life. They're dead to you. So you planned out these lunches, and we planned to go to lunch. So both of our calendars were full for this week, and so we decided that Monday when we came back to school, we were going to lunch together. It's one of those normal things that you don't think twice about. But what happened was, there was a weekend in between when we made these plans, and she decided to sneak out in the middle of the night to go to a party. And when it was time to go home, she ended up getting in a car with a high school kid who had been drinking, and she never made it home. Her parents went to sleep that Friday night with no idea that their daughter was not in bed. And they woke up with a knock on their door with the worst news that a parent could receive. And that Monday, when we were supposed to go to lunch, it was the weirdest feeling a person could have, knowing that someone is not going to show up. I think about her when I hear young people say, I'll follow God when I'm older. I want to live my life first. Who told you you have more time? She thought she had more time. She thought the night was just a night. This was just another decision. She thought Monday was still coming. And here's the other thing that nobody wants to say. Who told you that life out there is worth trading for? That party she snuck out for, the night she thought was totally worth it, was it worth it? Was any of it worth what it cost her? What it cost her parents? What it cost every person who loved her? The devil has been telling people since the beginning of time that they have more time. And that the life they'd be giving up for God is a great one. The devil told her that too. Don't believe him. Don't believe the devil's lie. Your parents just want to protect you. And God wants to protect you too. Our last point still doesn't work. It makes me feel better. Our last point, third and final point. Every choice is shaping who you will become. Every choice is shaping who you will become. Turn to Galatians, the 6th chapter. Galatians, the 6th chapter and verse 7. It says, "Do not be deceived, God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. For he who sows to his flesh will of the flesh reap corruption. But he who sows to the Spirit will of the Spirit reap everlasting life." You remember the demons that we talked about earlier? Screwtape. His most terrifying strategy wasn't tempting people with one huge catastrophic sin. I think that's what we think. We think that if we can avoid the big ones, that's what we have to avoid. But no, his strategy, his ideology was the gentle slope, the daily drift, the small decisions that don't even feel like decisions. Young people, I hope you know that every choice is shaping who you will become. Do you remember the story of Samson? Let me jog your memory. The guy with long hair that couldn't cut his hair. The really strong guy, right? And why was he strong? Because he had long hair. And that's why Rylan had been growing out his hair. And now you see he's not strong anymore. How did they cut it? Samson was one of the most gifted people in all of Scripture, set apart by God before he was born. He was appointed with a supernatural gift, called to deliver Israel. He had everything going for him. And you know, he ended up losing a lot. But he didn't lose it all in one moment. He drifted. One small compromise, then another, each one feeling manageable. He thought he could manage it. Each one feeling like it didn't really even count. He started keeping company with people that he should not keep company with. He started playing with lines that he should have stayed away from. He told himself, I've got it under control. Until what? Until he met a girl. Till Delilah came on the scene. And she asked him the secret of his strength. Not one time, not two times, but after the third time, he finally told her. But that drift had been going on a long time before this happened. And then comes the most haunting line in the whole story of Samson. It's in Judges, the 16th chapter, and in verse 20. It says, "He did not know that the Lord had departed from him." He woke up thinking that he was the same person that he had always been. He didn't even notice how far he had drifted away from God. This slow compromise had become his new normal, and he couldn't even feel what it had cost him until it was all too late. This guy, this amazing person, this super talented, supernatural gifted person ended up blind, chained up in a prison, grinding grain. The man that was appointed by God to be the deliverer turned to a slave. Not because of one catastrophic sin, but because of this gentle slope. Young people, every choice you make is shaping who you will become. You are building a person every day, right now. Every choice you make, you are constructing the character of the adult you will be. The student who now practices honesty in small things will learn to be an honest adult. The student who is a coward in small things, who goes quiet when they should speak up, who goes along with things when they should push back, becomes an adult who finds it almost impossible to be brave when it really matters. The fields you're planting in your youngest years is the harvest that you're going to walk into in your 20s, in your 30s. You don't get to renegotiate the crop after the seeds are already in the ground. So let me bring you back to Screwtape's letter for one final moment. How do you fight back against the devil trying to get you on this slope? How do you fight back? It's not a dramatic conversion. It's not this emotional moment. It's not this midlife crisis. It's a quiet, stubborn, daily decision to live before God regardless of who's watching. You won't care about impressing your friends someday. Solomon had more approval than you will ever chase. and He called it a vapor. Stop paying for something that will not matter. Following God is not a compromise. It's a great life. The prodigal son thought this faraway country was the best life, and it wasn't. The Father's house is what Jesus is offering now, today, not someday, not when I'm older. He's offering it now. And finally, every choice that you make is building someone. Samson didn't even know the Lord had left him. Don't be on that gentle slope. Don't be slowly falling away from God and not even realize it. And maybe you're sitting here today as a young person or an older person, and you've been coasting, going down this gentle slope. Not dramatically, not one catastrophic sin. This gentle slope. And maybe you've been holding on to later. I'll get serious about this when I'm older, when I have kids, when I'm married, when my life settles down, when things are different. And maybe, like my friend, later might not come for you. God has given each of us a chance today. The gentle slope runs in both directions. You can gently drift away from God one small choice at a time, or you can start walking toward Him today, the same exact way. One small decision, one decision to get your life back on track. You can make it today. If you'd like to do that, join us on the front row while together we stand and we sing.